Hello. On this week's episode, Clark gets a call from his pseudo little brother. Lex tells the mayor to blow smoke, and Lana is moving to the big city. Then JTT is doing twice the work in half the time while he 2 times it with Lana and Chloe, while Jonathan's new Doc and Lex have some chemistry. This is the Smallville Chronicles. Hello everybody, I'm one of your co-hosts, Lou Gonzalez. Joining me as always is Alan Muir.
And I'm Adam Muir.
Well, these were some interesting episodes. This first one is like super heavy.
And the next one is just wacky.
Yeah.
I think that was wise for them to take the tone off.
Yeah, the palate cleanser.
Yeah.
So this first episode, this came out in November 2002. So we see the return of Ryan James. So you'll remember him from season 1. He's the little kid that's psychic. And let me see, what episode was that?
Stray.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what number though, because it was like
I think it was season 1, episode 17.
All right. So basically, this episode starts where he's in a lab. There's like a doctor behind a computer, and there's some like orderly. Basically, they're running him through tests. He gets a nosebleed. The doctor, there's definitely something wrong. He has an IV with some green fluid in it,
which I thought was kryptonite or was meteor rock juice.
It probably is. They never explicitly say what it is in this episode.
It's like the black goo from Prometheus.
The doctor sends the orderly to go get some medicine. Ryan tells him that he's stealing Oxycontin. The doctor leaves. During this time, Ryan is able to sneak away, crawls through some air vents, Die Hard style, drops down and calls Clark, who basically he tells him some information about where he's being held. They can't find the aunt. They can't find him.
Or they immediately try to find Summer Holt. Yes.
But they have no idea where the aunt is either. She just like dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, they say her phone's disconnected and Summerholt isn't in Edge City.
Yes. Yeah, we get like a bunch of the cities in this episode, or maybe in these pair of episodes, because they mention Hub City as well later on, which is the Questions city.
It's I think it's either, I want to say the Charleston characters.
Yeah, which would be like the Question, Blue Beetle,
Captain Atom.
Yeah, Hub City. Yeah, it's the Charleston characters. So yeah, most notably the Question. It's what I'm reading here. It says, yeah. So it's all those. Was it? Yeah, Captain Atom. You said,
which Hub City has been mentioned numerous times on Arrow Legends.
Yes,
leading everyone to suspect that the Question was going to be on Arrow. I think like a season or 2 ago.
Yeah, it's definitely a character that they could do. I think we talked about that on when it comes out, the Flash episode for Phantom Zone, the last one we did where we covered a bunch of episodes. I think it was Flash. It was either Flash or Arrow. I can't remember. Because of that big trailer coming out, which was awesome. Which we can talk. Which we definitely will talk about once we cover these episodes. So basically, Ryan calls Clark. They look. They can't figure out where they are. There's no hospital by that name. Cut to basically Chloe gives them some info that somebody she knows works for the phone office, like the phone company, and figures out where it is, and it's some research facility in Metropolis.
Yeah, she says that they're a research place, and they don't and have never taken in patients.
Yep. So basically from here, this is kind of where we get to, I think this is our first part of the subplot, which is where Lex is meeting with Smallville's mayor, who by my intro is a joke because he's the cigarette smoking man from X-Files.
That's where I knew him from.
Yes, I was like, holy shit, I've only seen him in one other thing, and it's that. And he's basically playing that character. He's the corrupt mayor of the town. And apparently he comes back next season as well.
I'm not surprised.
But he's an awesome character actor. He's been around for forever. He's only in 2 seasons an episode, but we get a very much your dad played ball, like I'm going up for re-election, blah blah blah.
No, yeah. At first, Lex says, "Are you asking for a bribe?" He's just straightforward, right for it.
Yeah. Lex just calls him out on the BS, which is we'll get to after we do the second episode, but the Lex we get in this episode compared to the next are like two different human beings. Like he is so calm and collected in this episode, and he's like bouncing off the walls in the next. Our next thing though is we get the side plot of Lana's riding her horse. Nell stops her and she informs her that Nell's fiance is asking them to move in with him in Metropolis. Obviously, Lana is not happy about this, and we kind of go on from here. We see the cops and no one can find Ryan. They've been over the place twice. They can't figure out anything, and Clark kind of gives up on dealing with the right things. He goes there himself. He sees the doctor, calls everybody like on their bullshit, and is able to see the receptionist like puts on some sort of a clipboard that says that floor 3 is restricted. So he super speeds there, finds Ryan, and breaks him out.
And then just destroys a guard here.
Oh yeah, that orderly.
Yeah, the orderly.
Yeah, he just like tosses him aside,
as if he weighs 15 pounds.
Yep. From here we cut to Clark, Lex giving Ryan a hot chocolate. Clark brought him there. Clark kind of like doesn't let Ryan talk to hide the fact that he is, the psychic thing. Lex is basically like, this is like really bad. Like you kidnapped a kid. And he's like, yeah, I didn't think about it, but they were experimenting on him. And I feel like maybe it was just me that you can kind of read into Lex's sympathies over the situation because of the medical stuff that he went through when he was younger after the meteor shower.
Yeah. Especially the scene, all the talk, like them bonding over Warrior Angel.
Yes. From here, we get the next, Clark goes home. He finds Sheriff Miller, who's been our sheriff for the 2 seasons, and the doctor, Dr. Gardner, at the house.
Who I, for the entire episode, thought was former Sheriff Keller from Riverdale.
Oh, yeah, they definitely have that same face. It's not the same actor?
Unfortunately not. Or unfortunately it's not. I wished it was, because then it would be more interconnecting tissues.
Yeah, well, CW likes to reuse people like all the time.
Yeah, like Ryan's stepdad, who's going to appear later on down the line.
Oh, who is he? Oh, in Smallville, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying that he's somebody in a show right now. I was like, oh, I don't remember seeing him in anything. But basically, Clark is like, well, I will bring him here. Like, they're like, oh, he's going to tear apart the place. And he's just like, look, he's not here, but I'll have him here in the morning. Just give us one day. Doctor's like, if he's not here, we're going to tear everything apart and destroy your lives. Ryan is there.
The usual.
Yeah. So they bring Ryan there in the morning, and basically, like, there's nothing we can do. As they're handing him over, Jonathan's like, why do you want to take somebody who obviously doesn't want to be with you? He's not like a car. You don't own like a pink slip. And as they're about to like kind of hand over Ryan, Lex
comes to save the day.
Yes. He gets a subpoena, not a subpoena, a restraining order, basically saying that the courts are going to review everything that's been going on, and that the Kents have temporary custody. I believe this is where we get Ryan they go to the Talon, and they have the surprise party, and obviously Ryan knows what's happening, and Lana gives him the kiss. This is where Ryan basically does like an info dump of everything Clark doesn't know. So he tells Clark about Lana possibly moving. Doesn't he tell him one other thing?
Yeah, he tells him that
about Pete.
How he's terrified of slipping up and revealing Clark's secret, and that he'll end up in a place like Summerall.
Yes, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. He also, so from here, Martha brings him.
We also get some more exposition regarding why what happened between Stray and this episode.
Oh yes, yeah. With the aunt finds out about his abilities and basically gets freaked out. The doctor shows up and basically pays her to to ride over custody to him, and she like screws off to Arizona.
Yeah, and well, at first she was nice about it, but the medical bills were starting to become harder and harder to pay for. Then the doctor.
He kind of tells two different stories though, because he tells that one, and then later on he makes it a little bit more like cold.
Yeah.
Okay, and so from here we have Martha brings Ryan to the Luther Mansion. This is also another foreshadowing where he's like, "I know your secret, but I won't tell anybody." And basically says also that like you kind of hide the fact that you really like your job from Clark and Jonathan.
Mainly Jonathan.
Jonathan, yes. We get Ryan. The foreshadowing is interesting. I didn't remember that happening, and I was like, the second he said that, I was like, oh, I remember the storyline. Now, because I think it becomes like bigger towards the end of the season, because they don't even address it in the next episode.
No, they do.
Oh, it does? Maybe I just was not listening. But Lex goes to show him his collection of
Warrior Angel, especially
Warrior Angel.
Specifically Warrior Angel #1.
Yeah. And
which is basically action #1.
Yeah. And Ryan's basically finishing all the sentences because Lex is like, oh, I have 2 copies of all of them. One to like
one to collect, one to read.
Yeah. And so Ryan starts to read one of them and then has a headache. His nose starts bleeding on the issue. It's a different issue though. And then he collapses.
Yeah, and then we get a nice transition where it's Warrior Angel's
mask.
And then we transition to Clark where like it sort of zooms in like right onto the page. Goes through the page to Clark where it's perfectly silhouetted.
Mm-hmm. It's a great scene. And I'm kind of rushing through stuff because there's like a main part towards the end that I really want to talk about, which I loved.
Do you remember what the preview for the issue said?
Oh no. Something cries. Warrior Angel cries or something like that, or sheds a tear.
A hero cries or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is again more foreshadowing.
Yep. So from here, Ryan's in the hospital and basically tells Clark that he already knows what's going on. He has a brain tumor and that he's going to die. And Clark is upset because there's literally nothing he can do.
And I think I know where you're gonna be going.
Yes. So that's why I'm running through this because I think we can have like a nice discussion about it. So from here, Lex finds out that there is a cutting edge research doctor. He also talks about how brain tumors can give ESP abilities, and that the doctor is scheduled to fly out from Hub City. I can't remember where he says he's going. Geneva?
Helsinki.
All right, close enough. And basically he also tells Clark that he knows exactly how he was feeling, and that it's how much he regrets not being there when his mom passed, and that sometimes trying to do everything knowing that there's nothing you can do, it's better to just be with the person. Which Clark doesn't really like. He decides to super speed and collect the doctor. While this is going on, Lex visits Ryan with the rarest issue of Warrior Angel. I guess it's a prequel or something like that. It's some first appearance, but it's not actually issue 1.
It's issue 66 where Devicus becomes a villain. It turns his back on Warrior Angel, and he says that they were great friends, and he tried to convince Warrior Angel that they should team up and take over Earth.
It's very Darth Vader's offer to Luke.
Yeah, and Warrior Angel says, obviously, since they end up becoming enemies, says or doesn't go by that script because an angel's job is to he feels that his job is to watch over the people that are weaker, who can't fight their battles, something along the lines of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's foreshadowing, and again, it's another more foreshadowing of Lex and Clark's relationship.
Yep. And this ends with Lex saying the line that darkness is a journey, not a light switch. And Ryan basically says you should remember that.
Yeah.
After this, we see Lex meeting with the mayor again. basically, and then shows him an ad that's saying that he's going to back his opponent in the coming election, and that if he's going to fight with fire, he needs to realize that he's going to get burned.
He uses. I love that's the scene because he says that when Winston Churchill found out about the bombing at Pearl Harbor, he said, "We've won the war," and his generals looked at him like he was a crazy man. And he said that the Americans, or America, is like a big boiler or something along the lines of that. You light if you light a fuse under it or light a fire, you can't fan out the flames.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just I would totally watch Michael Rosenbaum do his in the Lex character. Just teaching history.
Yeah, he's done like a ton of voice work, so he is a great voice artist. While this is going on, it's really dumb, but it gets into plot going forward. Basically, Chloe tells Lana that she could live with her, and everybody's cool with it. Nell's really not, but that's kind of the way to get rid of Nell and kind of create this tension that we'll see going through the season of Lana moving into the Chloe's house. From here, Clark brings the doctor. Ryan goes through the surgery, and the Kents come out and they're crying. And basically, we find out that the surgery bought Ryan only a couple of days and did not cure him, and how he wished he could be in an aerodrome, which is where angels ship, so that he could fly above the world and deal with the quiet because everybody is so loud to him.
Yeah, and then we get Clark saying he's afraid of heights or afraid of flying, which again foreshadowing. This is just a foreshadowing the episode.
Yes. And basically this ends with Clark telling him he's going to take him to a quiet place, and they take a balloon ride. They have a hug. It's very sincere. And then the next scene is basically it fades into Clark gathering up the comic books and leaving the hospital room with the bed empty.
Yeah, and he's just standing there, and it's one of those Garden State type of shots where everything's moving fast around him, but he's standing still.
Mm-hmm. And the episode closes out with that. And this is a great episode. This is so much heart in this episode.
And there's no mustache twirling villain
the doctor is a little bit, but he's only in one scene. Yeah, he only does that in the one scene when Lex shows up, but then he's gone for the rest of the episode. I'm glad they didn't have him be a thing. Once that happened, he was just gone. But yeah, there's just this is the perfect Clark learning that it doesn't matter that he has super speed, super strength, that he's bulletproof, that he can shoot lasers out of his eyes. He cannot save everyone, even if the person is somebody that he truly loves. And this is early on for this character especially to learn this lesson, which they will learn again in the future. But this is even more devastating in many ways because it's a kid who sees him as a hero, and in many ways is more mature in the last moments, in the final days of his life than Clark is being. Because they have that whole scene about being afraid and putting on a brave face and stuff, and there's just so much going on in this episode besides all the foreshadowing. And obviously the huge comparison to this to me is the shit job that they do in Man of Steel.
Yeah, compared to Superman the movie.
The Superman the movie one is still fine. I do think this is the best. I did not remember this, and watching this I was oh, this is a better moment in so many ways because it's a returning character. So we got to spend an episode with them. So we get to spend 2 hours with this character, and the fact that it's also a kid who looks up to Clark and not just because there's a difference of being bearing a parent than bearing, I guess, he kind of became Clark's sibling in many ways. And there's a big difference in bearing a child. And the fact that Clark did everything, there was literally nothing else Clark could have done. They didn't even, which I do like. They didn't even bother trying to explain like how he got to Hub City and like back.
No, they showed it.
Well, no, they showed him running, but like nobody like is like, how did you do that? How'd you get to Hub City so fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just are like, whatever. There's a child dying.
Shouldn't he have gotten arrested though?
Yeah, because he was on the tarmac. Yes, this is
He
he
literally ran in front of a plane.
Yeah, and this isn't a post 9/11 world.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't think about that in Vancouver. But yeah, like this is a heavy, heavy episode that, again, I think the next one does a good job of being a palate cleanser, but I love this episode so much. Like if someone was like, oh, like it was just a goofy show, I'd be like, all right, watch this episode. But I guess like I'd say like you kind of have to watch the pair, but I think this one could stand on its own.
Yeah, going back to Ryan seeing Clark as someone he could look up to. Simply the quote from Stray. When he gives Clark his Warrior Angel comics, he says, "I don't need them anymore. I have you."
Yep.
That's probably arguably one of the most powerful scenes of this entire series.
Yeah, it's like there's great heaviness in this episode, and everybody handles it perfectly in many ways. This doctor does show back up later on in the series. I guess 2 other times at least.
Yeah, it has to do with Clark after Clark is now Virgil Swan, to find out more about his Kryptonian heritage.
Yeah.
The infamous Lara scene.
Yeah, he does. He shows up in at least, because I see like he does something with a character named Molly Griggs, and then he also does stuff with Lex to recover lost memories. So we will be seeing that character again, which I do really like that when they bring back those kind of smaller characters and kind of build up on it, even like because we've seen it with like some of the football players and stuff like that. I do like that a whole lot. But did you have anything else you wanted to say about this specific episode?
No, this was. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. This is one of the best episodes of a television series I've ever seen.
Yep. All right, and yeah, quickly, I would say my MVP is Ryan. I think the kid does like a great job. Obviously, Rosenbaum is amazing, but I think I have to give it. Child actors are very fickle in their quality, and I think he crushed it in this episode.
Same. Ryan's my MVP too. This episode.
Yeah. All right. And I think that should be just about do it for this first episode. All right. So this second episode is Dichotic.
Dichotic, yeah.
Dichotic. The biggest notable thing is that this is starring Jonathan Taylor Thomas. For anybody
of Home Improvement fame.
He was also the original voice of young Simba in the animated Lion King.
And he's not even coming close to it. To the new one.
No. Well, I was going to say, like, if you were born
in the 90s,
you know who he is. Otherwise, you have no idea who he is. But he was like the it guy, but the biggest problem is he never grew taller than like 5'3".
Yeah.
So he never really transitioned into leading man work. He did a couple movies. Trying to think any big movies. He did like a really bad one with Chevy Chase, and he did a Tom Sawyer movie.
He also did a horrible Christmas movie where it's him trying to get home in time for Christmas.
Oh yes, I do remember that. I think it's called like I'll Be Home for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is still when he's kind of an it guy, but towards the end, which is why he's on the show. He is noted as a special guest star, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is why we also have him shirtless in this episode. Double shirtless, I might add.
Also, he looks like he's 30 in this episode.
Yes. Well, they also have his hair dyed jet black. But yes, he looks like he's older than Rosenbaum, which he might be. So this episode starts off with Clark and Pete in a shop class of some sort. And they're getting their grades, I guess, for like midterms.
And what does Clark do? He makes the Superman the movie version of the S.
Yes. And he says it's the S for Smallville, but it's clearly the Superman S
Yeah, it's just a way to shoehorn it in.
And basically, he's like, "Oh, you should have gone with a simple thing like candle holder." And then we see the teacher, Mr. Frankel, berate Jonathan Taylor Thomas's character, Ian Randall, who made a envelope opener, I believe,
Yeah,
right?
a letter opener.
Letter opener. And basically is like, this is like pretty much garbage. And Ian's like, well, I came to class and I did all the work. And he's like, just because you're here doesn't mean you get an A. Like, he's like, I grade on work. Like, this is C work, and C work gets like a C grade.
Well, he tries to get the information for his grade. Or no, he says something along the lines of that he works twice as hard, which is a foreshadowing. What goes on later in the episode.
Yep.
And Pete gets Clark to use his X-ray vision to see what's inside Frankel's grade book. Pete got a B plus, Ian got a C, and Clark got a C plus.
Yep. And I believe this is when we find out that Ian is trying to get the Luther Corp scholarship.
Yeah, there's a scene where he's in the office in the torch office, or in the torch room, and he's talking to Chloe, and they're both eggheads.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting because this kind of cuts, I believe it cuts like right to the later on in the day where we see him show back up in the classroom, right? Because I don't even think that they split this up. Because basically everybody leaves the class, then we cut back to later on. Ian confronts the teacher about the grade. And then this is where we see like he turns around and because he hears stuff going on and the lights turn out. And then there's a second Ian who stabs him with the letter opener, I believe. Or maybe it's some other knife, but like he kills him.
The lights go out. Then some 2000s, late 90s, early aughts song starts blasting on a boombox. Gotta love them boomboxes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so basically distract and hide the noise of him killing the teacher. Because I guess this is like after the class or like towards the end of the school day.
Yeah, he notices that he turns around to see where the noise is coming from. He turns around and Ian stabs him. He tries to go for help or get away, but there's Ian number 2.
Yep, and then from here, we get
the best part.
Yeah, we get our initial, I guess, B plot. No, this would be like the C plot, I think, which is Lex is leaving the Talon. He gets a parking ticket. The meter maid like is having none of Lex, and basically is like it's always the rich people. Like you have like $5,000 worth of golf clubs, but you're worried about a $25 ticket. To which Lex takes out like a 9 iron and destroys the meter maid's car like windshield with it, and just loses his shit.
Yeah, Lex's exact quote was, "I employ 2,500 people in this town. I pay taxes, which provide your salary. Get a real job."
Yeah,
God,
he pulls the whole I pay your salary thing.
Which
but this is what's interesting from like the last episode to this. Like this is like cartoonish level Lex.
Well, considering Ryan's dead, they needed to.
This is definitely a palate cleanser episode.
Well, it's a bit of a palate cleanser and a bit of a setting up stuff for later.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a big setup in this.
Well, there's two big setups.
Yes. All right. So from here we go to Jonathan is repairing the tractor. He's looking around because there's nobody around. Clark isn't there. Martha's not there, so he's working on it. They show how precariously it's held up, and just like you would think, it slips off of the jack and lands on his leg, like his upper thigh.
Yeah, Clark comes home. Jonathan just screaming for help, and Clark takes him to the hospital where they meet, where Jonathan's treated by Dr. Helen Bryce.
Yes. So this is our big setup for multiple seasons, because even though maybe she doesn't carry through, but like her actions do throughout like large chunks of the series.
Yeah, even though she's only in 9 episodes,
So
she ends up having long-term ramifications.
she's an interesting character too, because she kind of bounces all over the place in her mentality, at least to me, from my memory. Because in this episode, she's very we first see her and she's a very good doctor, and she's a very no nonsense and like doesn't like take any guff, which kind of leads to where we're going, which is first obviously Martha shows up and then they go into the room, but then Lex arrives and is basically like, I have like a high profile orthopedist, like I could do like, so let me know. And then she's basically like,
She's like,
fuck
that.
She's like, it's a broken leg.
Yeah, there's nothing else. You can't, like, money's not going to fix this.
Yeah. And so from here, we basically see the other kind of B plot is the whole Martha working for Lionel thing. So Martha feels guilty because she told Jonathan that she was going to be home and she wasn't because their meeting ran late. And everybody kind of feels this. And Jonathan, although he kind of doesn't want her to feel that, he is kind of resentful for it. But we'll see that throughout this episode and the season. From here, we cut back to the school in which Ian is at the torch and meets up with Chloe and basically tells her, so this is where we get all the info dump on Ian.
Yeah, they've been taking 9 classes, extra credit work to graduate as a sophomore and try to get into an Ivy League school.
Exactly. Which he can only do if he can get the scholarship.
Yes.
So, very flirtatious, Chloe asks for an interview, which, of course, that happens because this is Chloe and every guy she shows any interest in, which I think they even make a joke about in this episode. Because, like, was this, like, the second or third guy that she's had a thing for that ends up being a killer?
Yeah, first it was...
the icicle guy. The ice guy.
The ice parasite.
Yeah. I don't think you could count... I guess you kind of count the deputy that ended up kidnapping her. And I think there was another one before this. But I cannot remember right now. But basically, Chloe offers to do an interview on him, and he agrees, so then says that they'll meet for coffee later. So then we cut from there basically right to that interview at the Talon, and they're kind of flirting with each other. Clark shows up, and the two of them leave. And basically Clark Lana was supposed to have a study thing with Clark, which he cannot do because he has to help at the farm because his dad got hurt. And this is when Ian kind of swoops in and says like, oh, I'm getting A in that class. I can help you. And this is where we get the first... I actually think it's the only time we actually see his powers in use in this episode and how it works. But we see him go into the back of the Talon stripped naked. We only see the chest up, and then another version of him comes out of his back.
Yes. It's very creepy.
Yes. But it also leaves a lot of questions. Does he carry a second set of the exact same clothes with him at all time?
TV show.
But that was like my immediate thought. It's like, oh, he like clones a naked version of him. Like, it's not like Multiple Man who can just like pop out another version or any sort of other version where they just kind of make another one. Like, this will be goofy, but like I always think of like the shadow clones from Naruto. But like that's how Multiple Man works in many ways as well. But like in this, he has to get like fully naked and like another naked version of him curls out of his back. It's a very weird, the effect is okay, but it is an interesting idea. Like it's much more visceral looking in many ways. Like it doesn't look...
How does he not accidentally shit on the floor?
It's just weird. Like he almost like comes out, like he like pokes, like his like a hole opens in his back and he like crawls out. It reminded me of Ace Ventura 2. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
With the rhino?
Yeah.
So like it's just like a very like weird thing where it's like him like pulling out. It's very birth-like, which is weird. All right. So basically we get this clone and then we see that the two Ians, one goes with Chloe and one goes with Lana. From here, the next morning, we see that Martha is going to stay home and help. And Jonathan is basically like, oh, like I can, relax just as easily working on this than sitting on the couch. We go to school and Clark and Pete notice that Mr. Frankel is absent and that and that the shop class is canceled, which is not how high school works ever.
Yeah, there's no substitute.
Yeah, you just have a substitute. But they see Lana and Ian in the halls, and Ian gives her a kiss. And basically,
where is Claude Rollet when you need him?
This is so interesting because this happens like fast. They went like on a study date the night before, and then he just is like super aggressive. But Lana's into it.
Oh wait, that episode is. I was about to spoil something, but then that episode is coming up soon.
Yeah. Part of this whole thing is like we said in the last episode. So Chloe and Lana just moved in with Chloe and her family, her dad. So they are living together. And Clark asks Lana about what Chloe thinks, and Lana's confused. And Clark explains that Ian broke off a date with Chloe to study with Lana. And Lana's kind of confused and said that Chloe didn't say anything about it. And basically tells Clark that he's being a jealous tool and to stay out of it.
Oh man, I just remember it just brought back memories from last season. When like Lana was with anyone who wasn't she would be hanging out with someone who's possibly dangerous, and she's like, "What Clark? Are you jealous?" And
like Werewolf Boy from earlier this season.
Oh yeah.
But you're right. He does it with both of them. He basically is like always on top of them. Like, I don't know about this guy.
That's the chicken to his Marty McFly.
Yes, any male that shows any interest in either Lana or Chloe, because he did the same thing with Chloe with the telekinetic guy that could draw pictures.
Oh, Adam Brody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. From here, we get another interesting scene, which is Lex going to anger management, where he runs into Dr. Bryce. And basically, she is like, he asks her out, she fends him off, and basically like, you don't remember me. And this is kind of an interesting thing they did in this episode. We would leave a conversation and cut right to those characters meeting up at another place. Because they did it with the Ian and the teacher, they did it with Chloe in the interview, and then we're doing it here again with Lex and Dr. Bryce. So they finished their conversation in anger management, and then he immediately, the next scene is he goes and finds her at the hospital, and basically says like, yeah, I remember, like basically he went to the ER because he was so drunk, and she took care of him, so that she saw him at his bottom, and she ends up accepting a date with him. And I think this is the last that we get of this kind of connection in this episode. I don't even know if we see either of them again.
Doesn't look like it.
No. But it's interesting, and this obviously, like we said, plays into what goes on further. Dr. Bryce is in 9 episodes, and her story will affect the several seasons down the line stories and huge events. So from here, Clark goes to the Torch. He asks Chloe about if she likes Ian because he saw her flirting with Lana. She gets defensive and basically says that Ian told her that Lana likes him, but not to say anything to her. Clark obviously is like, well, this guy's bad news. He's playing both of you. And Chloe, just like Lana, tells him to mind his own goddamn business and storms off. Which you think she'd be nicer after she's delved into his family and his adoption twice after being told no.
Yeah.
Both times. That she'd be a little bit more understanding, but she's not. She does bring up the interesting thing, though, of, I guess maybe it's like 2 things. That one, that someone would choose her over Lana, obviously poking at Clark, and also that Clark doesn't want her to be with anybody else.
Yeah.
She like straight up addresses the love triangle aspect of everything. And then from here, we see Clark confront Ian and basically straight up is like, oh, I figured it out. You're trying to get with Chloe because she can write an article on you, and you're trying to get with Lana because she has a relationship with Lex. So therefore, like, connection to the Luther scholarship. And then he then asks him about the grade, and
he's like, Mr. Frankel didn't exactly, or he didn't post grades yet.
Yeah, and Clark is like, yeah, well, I know you got a C. And he gets really defensive about it. Because I think, doesn't he say like he got an A like he always does or something?
Yeah.
Yep. And this basically, rings off, red flag number 50 for Clark. So he drags Pete to go look in the room, in which case we get the always hilarious scene of a dead body falling on the sidekick.
And this time it was Pete.
Yes. And so from here, Right then, a barrel of chemicals tips over and a floor light, and they see Ian running away.
Fire!
Yep. And they see Ian running away. Clark goes to Chloe's house to find Ian, and Chloe kissing is basically like, he just saw him. He tried to kill me and Pete, and she's like, he's been here for 3 hours, which is a very long time for him to have been there. Like, sitting in her house for 3 hours.
Well, he has to set up the alibi.
Yes. I mean, like, that's like over a movie. Like, were they watching A Lord of the Rings?
Extended edition?
Yeah. Like, that is a long time to sit, like, on a couch.
Oh, I know the extended editions didn't come out in after the.
No, they would not have been out yet.
Yeah.
It's still like at least a 2.5 hour Lord of the Rings movie would get them most of the way through. But I don't think it would be a romantic movie.
Yeah, fucking Gandalf dies.
Yep. So obviously Chloe doesn't want to hear any of it. Clark goes and talks to Lana, who's still mad about him.
Sorry, Lord of the Rings fans, for my for the spoilers.
It's like 2 decades later at this point. And the books were only like 70 years old.
And Tolkien was just, I mean, he was in Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes, he was. Clark goes and talks to Lana, who's still mad, but he's basically like, why would somebody that's good wouldn't tell you to not talk to your friend? And basically tells him that like he's seeing both of you guys. So Clark and Pete get information on the scholarship and realize that Ian has been taking classes both at Smallville and the community college simultaneously. So they decide to follow him, and they page him, which again dates this show really hard.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of weird because, like, I don't remember pagers being a thing in 2002. That seems like really late for pagers.
I forgot who it was in the episode who had a phone, but it looked like
no. Lex had a cell phone in the beginning. He had a flip phone. It wasn't like a Razor, but it was like an old, like a
Motorola.
Yeah, it was like a Motorola flip phone. But yeah, I don't know. It just like caught me off guard. I hadn't heard anybody talk about a pager in forever. But basically, Pete and Clark trick him and send him both to the Talon and Chloe's house. Chloe's dad's like, oh, she's not here. She's at I think he says that she's doing the newspaper stuff. And then Lana's not at Talon either. So Pete and Clark confirm that there's like 2 of him. The girls are meeting at the Torch, in which case Ian comes in and it's basically like, what is going on? Why did you guys send me to this other place? And then they kind of realize that he's
two-timing them.
Yes, two-timing them. He locks the door, and then
they try to get out the opposite way. And other Ian is there.
Yes. Clark and Pete show up, and they find a fake suicide note from both girls. Ian takes them to the dam that we've seen 50 times over at this point. Chloe makes a run for it, but I'm going to use Ian number 1 and Ian number 2. So Ian number 1 tackles her. She gets knocked out. Ian number 1 Ian number 2 is having issues with Lana. Ian number 1 says, don't worry, I'm almost done. He throws Chloe off the dam.
Which next up is going to be the most baffling bit of stuff of shit that does not make sense.
Yeah. So Clark super speeds, slows down enough to like hurdle the barrier, then somehow falls way faster than her to land first, which he just like lands on his back and then just kind of like props himself up and just catches her.
If you notice, when he fell, the hole he made, or the indentation he made, looked very suspicious.
Oh,
that's how I say it. I would say.
It looked like he landed on a bunch of foam.
Yeah,
like really badly, and like the ground particles, like the leaves and stuff. Like they try to cover it with like dead leaves. I think it looked really bad. And then when he caught her, I was like, oh, this reminds me of the very famous scene with Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy. I'm like, her neck would be snapped, like the way he catches her, because she just like falls into his arms.
He then runs up the dam, holding her, and as we've seen on The Flash, that they don't do that for a reason.
Yeah, there's like a lot of weird stuff here. So Ian number 2, the one with Lana, tries to throw her over, but I think Lana like starts moving and they both fall over the edge.
Yeah,
And-
they both take a tumble over the edge.
And this again is
And-
like bad editing right here. I don't know if you caught this, but Lana's yelling and literally like her fingers are slipping, and the last one lets go, and then like they cut to Clark who's running, and when they cut back to her where he's gonna grab her hand's still like basically on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's terrible editing because the timing like didn't work well.
And then this Ian number 2 falls to his death.
Yes.
And deleted scene from the episode showed that once that Ian died, the main Ian died as well.
Okay. Which they can't do because they end up bringing Ian returns, I think, in season 3.
Yeah.
Okay, and then from here, Clark goes home, reports everybody's fine. Martha says she's going to quit her job, and Jonathan basically says he doesn't want her to quit because they obviously need the money, and that he just feels like she puts the Luthers first sometimes, and Martha assures him that's not it. We go to, I believe it's Chloe's house, or is it the Talon? I think it's the Talon.
Yeah.
And Lana and Chloe agree to not keep secrets from each other again. They call Clark, who shows up. They apologize to him and discuss like their complex, like the love triangle stuff that's going on.
They literally address it.
Yes, and Clark basically is just like, I'm just disappointed that both of
you trusted a killer over me.
Yeah,
the man who's saved this town so many times.
Yeah, and saved them specifically, both of them. Yeah. I believe he saved both of them from being buried alive already.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Chloe was buried by the cop, and then Lana was buried by somebody else, wasn't she? I don't remember. Maybe she just put in a casket. But basically, they're like, well, it's not like you're always truthful with us, and it was their mistake to make. And basically it ends with like Clark saying that he doesn't think he should have been treated like a jealous boyfriend. He would have rather been treated like a friend, and then he just like walks out.
Yeah, and it marks the first time Clark takes a truly proactive and decisive role in defining the relationships between all three of them.
Yeah. It was a very weird way to end the episode because it's basically he's just like, well, screw you guys. Like, you guys are assholes. Like,
it's sort of like I'm not saying it is, but it's sort of like the screw you guys, I'm going home.
Oh, it's definitely very much that. And he's just like, you guys are idiots. Like, anytime I say something, I'm always right. Just listen to me. I feel like if this is like a definition of like mansplaining. Like, right? Like, he just like basically
man, thank God we didn't say anything about Ghostbusters.
Oh God. Yeah, but it's like such a weird and awkward thing. They're like, oh, we're sorry, like we didn't believe you, and he's like,
and before anyone starts any shit, I like the Ghostbusters 2016 movie.
Oh, I have not seen it. But I just haven't gone to the movies in a while.
It's better than Bridesmaids.
Oh, really? I like Bridesmaids a lot. But, you know, different folks.
Yeah, Bridesmaids wasn't my type of movie.
Anytime you have a woman shit herself in a wedding dress, I'm kind of in.
But did they have to show it?
Yes. It makes it better. And also the puppies. That was my favorite part. That Melissa McCarthy took home like 10 puppies.
Oh yeah, that I did like. This is totally off topic, but did you see the on SNL? It was her. It was years ago. It was her as a she was playing a basketball coach, or a woman's basketball coach.
Melissa McCarthy? No, or I probably did and don't remember it.
I'll send you the link after we're done.
My favorite thing she's ever done is she was on Fallon, I think, and it was like before they did the lip sync show. It was one of the first ones of those lip sync things that went viral, and she did Color in the Wind. It's really good. I will send you that. But like this, to get back to the show, this end of the episode makes like no sense because the girls apologize to Clark. Clark basically is like, well, you can take your apology and shove it. You should have listened to me. And yeah, we have like a weird relationship, but that doesn't mean like you shouldn't listen to me because I'm still your friend no matter what. And then it's just like, again, screw you guys, I'm going home, and just like leaves. And the two of them are just there like, what just happened? And the way the music plays is like, yeah, Clark, you're awesome. Like you told them what for. And it's just like a very weird ending.
Can we talk about the music in the episode?
Sure.
We get Mooney Suzuki. We get, and from here on it gets sketchy. Premonition, Boss House, Son of Adam, Aha, and simply Dem Hills. Because how about Dem Hills, y'all?
It's like, yeah, there are just a ton of weird. Like, the music in this episode isn't great. It's usually not super great, but in this episode specifically, it's not good.
And I just wanted to play the Stargate. Like, what's the Kevin Bacon?
Which Kevin Bacon?
The game that they 7 degrees or 5 degrees of bacon.
Oh yeah, 6. I think it's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Well, just to do a connection to Erica Durance, David Richmond Peck, who played the meter maid, was on Stargate SG-1 with David Palfy, who is married to Erica Durance.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Who is one of the many people to have appeared in the Flareverse, because she is the second actress that plays her mother, her Kryptonian mother.
Yeah.
But yeah, this second episode's real weird. It's real weird. I feel like they did a lot to kind of like be like, all right, well, we have a guest star who's like a big name at the time, which I did look up. He was only 21 when this came out. So I guess he's only like at most like 3 or 4 years older than everybody else.
This is the best part of the notes. It is unexplained how Clark could fall faster than Chloe when she was thrown off the dam, as he has not learned flight.
See, I think you can argue that point because he definitely sort of flew in the season 1 finale to save Lana. So I can kind of forgive that aspect. It's just like the special effects in it are so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do see these two. We see Dr. Bryce and we see Ian later on. Do we want to give kind of MVPs and LVPs for this episode? Or your favorite scene?
My favorite scene was crazy cartoon Lex.
Oh, it was definitely the most entertaining scene. I don't know if I have an MVP for this episode because, like, although I do love Rosenbaum, he's like really barely in this.
I actually liked Clark.
Clark was good. My other thought was like Dr. Bryce. I actually really liked her in this episode. Because most women that we see interact with Lex tend to be very submissive and like just kind of do what he wants,
or
they're trying to kill him or use him.
Yeah.
So, but I like that she kind of went at him, which makes her character as it goes forward super interesting.
Yeah, she appears 8 more times throughout the series.
Mm-hmm. And she has some very pivotal appearances in the show in season 2 and 3.
Yeah. I don't like the way they chose to exit her character.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. Like in her early part of this, she is like very different than the way they end her. Like when we go to season 3, she becomes like a completely different person.
Yeah, because they imply that while this seems very real, like their banter and stuff in this episode, they just quickly change it to, oh, she was a gold digger.
Yeah, exactly. Which they also say in this episode that her father is like a famous like pharmaceutical doctor. No, plastic surgeon. That's what it was.
Yeah, and Lex says something along the lines of, or no, she says something someone says something along the lines of leaving plastic surgery it was actually Dr. Bryce. She says that she left plastic surgery because she didn't like the people that she was operating on. And I think something else about, like, she preferred the people. She preferred to be dealing with the people that she deals with as 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 like the people in Smallville.
Yeah, it was like definitely very good. I was just looking up. So she has such a long, even though she's not in a ton of episodes, they readdress her in season 10. Like that's how long lasting her effects on this series are.
Yeah. Okay, I found the specific quote. She says to Lex, "Actually, I should be thanking you. It's cases like yours that convinced me to leave Metropolis." So
Yep. I guess we can talk quickly about the next two episodes that we are going to be watching, which the next one has huge ramifications in the kind of early part of the show, which is
the Quachi Caves.
Yes, which is like our pseudo early on Fortress of Solitude. So we get introduced to that in the next episode. And the one after that is our Return of Whitney. Yes.
But the thing about Skinwalker, do you notice the writer or the writers for the episode?
I'll have to go back and look. No, these names look familiar, but I do not know them.
They ended up replacing Goff and Miller as showrunners after season 7.
Oh, okay.
They wrote the series finale.
Which the series finale is good. Season 10 is not.
They also wrote the 200th episode, which is basically This Is Your Life.
Is that the reunion episode? Or is that 100?
100 is, I think, the episode with what happens to you know what, or you know who.
Okay.
From Superman the movie.
Okay.
And episode in 200, they go back to that moment. It's the episode with where it's his high school reunion.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking of. That so 200 is the high school reunion.
Yeah, with Brainiac 5 or just Brainiac.
Yeah, with Spike.
Yeah.
I'll only refer to him as Spike. Although I guess he was in both of these shows at the same time. There had to be a time of crossover that he was in both. Unless he literally won, unless Buffy ended.
Buffy ended in 04.
Okay, so yeah, he didn't show up until season 6?
He actually showed up in season 5.
Okay, so yeah, but would be so Buffy ended and he jumped right to this. He probably had no time off. Which is funny that he might have the most comic book nerd cred of any actor.
Yeah, wait, when did Angel end?
Angel was only on for 2 seasons. I was not a big fan of Angel, so I'm not sure.
No, you're thinking of Dollhouse.
No, I was not a big fan of Angel.
Angel was on from 1999 or 2001 to 2000.
If you're saying it was on for more than 2 years, I will be surprised.
It was, because
I just remember what's his name that ended up playing oh my god, I'm losing the character in my head. In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What the heck was he called? The one that's a cyborg.
Oh, Deathlock?
Yeah, he was an Angel. And I always think that the dude that plays Jimmy Olsen on Supergirl looks a lot like him.
That's mighty offensive.
But yeah, it's just interesting. This is the introduction to this one character who is very influential in the series in this very weird, goofy episode that has one of the weirdest endings that I think we'll see. But I'm excited for the Kawachi Caves. They introduce a ton of really interesting stuff. And I think that just about wraps us up for this episode.
Oh wow, Angel and Buffy ended at the same time. Both ended in 04.
Yeah, so he must have jumped right from those shows to Smallville. Which makes sense, it's the same network, so.
Yeah. Well, Angel was Fox.
Oh, I thought it was also on the WB. They spun it off into another network?
Yeah, because after...
Man, Borealis has been on that network then for forever. because he went like from Angel to Bones, and then I think he's still on there. I don't remember if he's on like a Navy SEAL show, and I think that's on Fox.
I think it's on CBS.
Okay. But wow, he's had like the kind of biggest career out of the Buffy people, of the people on screen.
Fun fact, he was actually going to be...
Actually, no, Allison Hannigan probably had the biggest career, has the biggest career. I just forget that she was on that show.
David Boreanaz was actually going to be in the Resident Evil movie.
Oh, it's what, Chris Redfield?
No, as the Matt character who turns into Nemesis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it was like the three biggest people that came off that show. Two of them weren't even on it for the whole run, which were Allison Hannigan and Seth Green, and then Borealis is probably the third biggest. And then everybody else, well, Michelle Gellar kind of like half retired at this point, and then everybody else has done nothing.
Well, don't forget Charisma Carpenter.
Yeah, but I feel like she was like a recurring guest, not like a series. Maybe she was like a series writer for like one season, but she wasn't like one of the stars. But I feel like we're very close to turning into a Buffy podcast, which is I can't do that. We're already watching one show that went on for 10 seasons. I can't do another. But I think that just about wraps this up. Do we want to do quick plugs?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the Almir. Find me on Instagram at Comics Boy, where I've been posting, or where I plan to start posting more comic stuff as I went on a mad spending spree and bought the issues of Action Comics I missed, bought the issues of Superman I missed, bought Batman White Knight.
Oh, is that off of my recommendation?
It was that, and I listened to an iFanboy episode about it.
It's really good. I think I was one of the people that was like poo-pooing the idea, and then I was like, all right, I'll give it an issue. And then I was like, I love this.
Oh yeah, I also bought the Batman stuff that I missed. I basically just bought everything I missed after Heroes in Crisis issue number 1.
Okay. But you can hear us talk more about comics on the coming out very soon.
And Now Comics.
Yes.
Where you can find myself, Lou, John Seiler, and Connor Irving, who you can find 3 of the 4 of us, Lou, myself, and Connor. You can find our writings on losharo.wordpress.com, which is about to enter... Wait, when's this coming out? Next
Today.
week?
I was going to put it up tomorrow.
Okay. Well, by the time this goes up, Los Haro will be entering its 4th year. And should we plug the other podcasts that we're trying to get off the ground?
Yes. Me and Alan also will be doing a 3rd, 4th, 82nd podcast where we are watching cartoons.
3rd.
Yeah. Well, 3rd, where we are the co-host, where we are watching cartoons with Gary Gilmore and rotating everybody's pick. So that should be the first episode should be coming out next week at some point as well.
Which is Batman Beyond Return of the Joker.
One of the best DC movie cartoons of all time.
Oh, don't forget to subscribe to those podcasts when they do go up.
Yep. Rate, review, and subscribe to all of the Phantom Zone podcasts, as well as all the Los Horror podcasts, Los Horror Games.
Oh yeah, Los Horror Games will be out most likely on Sunday.
Yep. I was a guest appeared on the last episode along with you, Alan. It's you and
usually it's myself, Emma Watkins Jr., and Hunter Davenport. But Hunter has been fucking off lately. I'm just gonna be honest, he's been fucking off.
Well, and it's not like you can yell at him because you can't find him on any social media.
Yeah, he literally says it on Phantom Zone. Don't follow me. And that's where you can also find Lou a lot of times. He's basically the show's go-to guy when it comes to the CW verse or the Arrowverse. And yeah. Oh, fuck you Disney for killing Daredevil.
Yeah, he'll be back, and hopefully the same version. But we will talk about that when we do some sort of a big wrap-up, probably for the Phantom Zone. But, did we have any other plugs? I think we already covered all mine, so...
Oh, I have something to plug for Los Horror Games. There's still the Quiet Man review that Green Web did. Lou, do you know anything about that game?
For what? What's the theme of it?
The Quiet Man.
No, I do not. I do not know what that is.
It's a game where you play as a deaf hitman, I want to say.
I don't know what that means. So, like, if you're killing dead people, or are you...
No, a deaf.
Oh, a deaf. I thought you said death.
Oh, no. That's...
Yes, I have heard of this game. Because there's no sound in it, right?
Well, when it first launched, there was no sound because your character's deaf. And then when people first beat it, there was a countdown. And the countdown was when they were going to patch in the voice over or the sound.
I hope you can still play it without the sound.
Yeah, I believe that's still an option.
All right.
Aside from the Quiet Man, there's Josh Miller's Pokemon Let's Go Eevee review. An upcoming post by Hunter about Earthbound, and Emmett has something to say through play. So,
all right. So, I guess
this isn't really Losaro Games, but it's still Losaro. Teo's Heavenly Blues trailer back review. So check that out in 6 days from now, or in 7 days.
All right. So I think that wraps us up. So don't forget to check us out next week. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for Truth, Justice, and the American Way.